Nobody ever knows how to answer the question, do I look fat in this? And I kept hearing it all the time from girlfriends I knew and friends and sisters and everybody I met. Every woman I met had asked that question in her lifetime. And I had this hunch that we probably didn't really want fashion advice from our partners or our husbands, but we were really trying to ask for something else. So I wanted to start with the title, Do I Look Fat in This? Because I think it's the most basic question in the language of fat, and really begin to break it down from there. What do we really mean when we ask that question? Why do we speak in that language? And finally, what can we do about stopping speaking in this language of fat? The language of fat is a learned language. It's a language that women especially are accustomed to hearing starting from a little girl and growing through adulthood. It's a language that we hear our mothers speak. For instance, when your mom says, oh, mommy shouldn't have eaten that, or mommy has tubby thighs, or, mommy's getting fat. We hear it a lot mirrored from our mothers, but we can also hear it from our fathers. And then when we get into the peer groups, we hear it from our friends all the time. I mean, how many of us have heard our girlfriends talk about how fat they feel? And then once we're out in the world, we see it in the media. We see the insane pressure that the media puts on women to lose weight and get in shape and look a certain way. And so the language of fat for me is about the negative self-talk that we say to ourselves, that women say to ourselves, whether it's first thing in the morning you wake up and you look in the mirror and you say, God, I'm so ugly, or I shouldn't have eaten that, or my hair is so frizzy. Whatever the sort of negative self-critical comments are, all of that is part of the language of fat. It's about assigning your worth by how much you weigh versus by who you are. And the hard part about the language of fat is that everybody in this country speaks it on some level. Even men speak it, men who feel like they won't be loved until they're successful, or they won't be sought after until they're more handsome or look a certain way or have a certain body type. Everybody is waiting to live their life 5 pounds from now. And so the language of fat is out there. It's in the media. It's in our culture. And it's something that we learn from our families, but it gets validated out for us in the world. The Hollywood media is forceful. It's out there. But it doesn't have to be our higher power. It doesn't have to be what we give away all of our self-esteem to. The biggest piece of advice that I would give to a family member or a loved one who's dealing with somebody in their life who speaks in the language of fat would be to remember that when you hear the language, when you hear somebody say, ugh, I feel so fat, or when you hear somebody say, do I look fat in this, to remember that that's not the question they're really asking, that they are really looking for something more. And instead of answering that question with a quick, no, of course not, you're beautiful, really remember that it's time to decode the language. And so ask a question when you get that question. Ask somebody, what are you feeling? Or what's really going on for you? Or how can I help you? Because that's going to open up the conversation instead of putting a lid on it by just telling them no or trying to ignore the question. And the other piece of advice I think I would offer family members is to remember that the person who's speaking this language doesn't necessarily know they're speaking this language. So try not to get angry or frustrated. Even though you might have heard this question asked to you 100 times, remember that it's really about something else. And when you're able to challenge that and let your loved one know, hey, listen, I don't speak in the language of fat. I want to know what's really going on for you. You're going to do so much for your relationship. You're going to see it improve greatly. And it just takes making that choice and taking that risk. I think it's important to remember that everybody can speak in the language of fat. This isn't just for people who have struggled with body image or weight issues in their life. This is about a mindset. This is about an American mindset that tells us that our life is going to begin when we lose weight, when we have a different husband, a better job, nicer clothes, more money. Everything is about putting our life off until we have something that's going to make us happy. And usually in this country, Americans think that they're going to be happy when they're thinner. And that's something I think we have to keep in mind, that when you start living your life 5 pounds from now, you miss out on the moments of today. So whether you have struggled with dieting or body image in the past or you haven't, this is a message and a language that everybody really speaks and would be very helpful for you to begin to decode that language to know that your life begins now.